You're about to step into the mind of the most dangerous man in Prague, and he never touched a sword. Somewhere in a locked room, a single clerk decides which letters survive and which ones burn. A tiny change of wording will make a king feel insulted, start moving soldiers, or quietly erase a rival from history. He doesn't command armies, he edits sentences. When his pen slips, ports arm for a war that never existed, then pretend it was all a misunderstanding. This is the story of the man who turned paranoia into symbols, who watched other people die because a mark on his page could be read two ways. A man who slowly realized the scariest secrets weren't in the code at all, but in how quickly he learned to live with what he was doing. "1590 Prague Castle. At the end of a forgotten corridor stands a door with 3 locks on the inside and 1 on the outside. Behind it, one man sits at a narrow desk bending over parchment filled with Greek letters and numbers, symbols that resemble no spoken tongue. To everyone else it would look like madness. To him, it is simply the emperor speaking in disguise. His official title is Cipher Secretary, a clerk among clerks on paper, but in practice he is the emperor's second tongue. On the left side of his desk, letters arrive in plain Latin. On the right, they leave in dense cipher with the imperial seal. He alone holds both versions in his head, the original fear or flattery, and the safe encrypted shape that will travel through hostile hands. He did not start in marble halls. He started in a village church in Moravia, praised for his neat handwriting and punished for reading beyond scripture. Sent to Vienna for discipline, he was handed a simple encrypted line as a test and cracked it before the candle burned halfway down. That day, the priest lost a troublesome boy, and the Habsburg Chancery acquired a new weapon. In Prague, they gave him something more dangerous than any sword, a small leather volume filled with tables. On each page, words like emperor, army, and uprising are mapped to numbers, zodiac signs, and tiny absurd drawings. If this book ever leaves the hollow under his floorboard, anyone clever enough could speak in Rudolph's name without ever seeing his face. One winter morning, the letter on his desk comes from nowhere he recognizes, torn from a courier's bag on a foreign road. The symbols covering it are unfamiliar, but the structure, the rhythm of nulls, repeats, and rare signs is instantly legible to him. When the plain text finally emerges, it is not battle plans, but foreign diplomats mocking Rudolph's instability and his court of madmen. He still thinks about the time a single ambiguous sign could mean ships or troops, and he chose the wrong one. Ports armed for an invasion that never came, and allies arrived with grain only to be greeted by soldiers instead of dock workers. Official reports blamed rumors and confusion. In the locked room, he blamed a twitch in his own hand. Every corridor of the castle has its own prophet, astrologers drawing circles, alchemists watching fumes, and priests polishing sermons. Each claims to protect the emperor from raw truth, insisting that only their lens is safe for his eyes. Reading their quarrels in letters, the cryptographer understands he is merely one more man selling certainty to a frightened king. A great lord writes of the emperor's melancholic humors in a way that, translated accurately, will strike Rudolph like an insult. 2 small word choices could turn the same line into flattery about a studious nature and an overburdened mind. Tonight he copies the harsh version without softening, less out of honesty than out of exhaustion with saving men he despises. He knows simple substitution ciphers are toys because he breaks them for sport when they arrive from abroad. So he builds a new maze using multiple alphabets, symbols for letter pairs, and many different signs for the same sound. When he tests it on himself and cannot crack it quickly, he feels both professional pride and a new, colder kind of fear. Presenting the new system to Rudolph, he talks of safety, espionage, and enemies who count symbols in dark rooms. The emperor's attention drifts until he mentions that, after his death, future eyes might read his private letters. Make it so that they cannot, Rudolph says quietly, caring less about the Empire's secrets than about his own naked soul. A cipher is useless if only its maker can use it, so he selects 3 scribes with neat hands and dull ambitions. He drills them to see patterns instead of words, to feel where it will hide in Latin and which symbols are deliberate noise. Every time they misplace a sign, he makes them rewrite pages, reminding them that a single slip can turn envoy into spy. A letter arrives in his newest cipher, supposedly known only to Rudolph and 3 distant ambassadors. It comes from the bag of a courier found with his throat cut beside a forest road, his horse still tied to a tree. The message itself is dull logistics, which means the murder was not for content, but for the chance to study the Emperor's new maze. The council orders him to assume the code is compromised and prove otherwise by breaking his own past letters without the book. He spends 3 days counting symbols on the walls, building crude frequency charts with charcoal and sleeplessness. When he reports that the cipher is strong for now, he leaves unsaid the conclusion gnawing at him: nothing stays strong forever. By touch alone, he can now guess which letters carry danger, feeling the thickness of paper and the tremor of seals. He starts deciding not just what to decode, but when, sliding some crises up the pile and letting others cool for a day. In practice, it means armies march or stay still according to one man's private sense of which panic should be served first. Some letters never leave his room: petty denunciations, jealous sermons, and small vendettas dressed as patriotism. He reads them, weighs the cost of each, and feeds many to the fire with emotion that now feels routine. The ash collecting at his feet is made not just of paper, but of futures that will never reach the Emperor's eyes. Day after day, he reads other people's weaknesses: adulteries coded as visits, bribes as gifts, heresy in Greek letters. At first, their excuses disgust him, then they bore him, and eventually they start to sound disturbingly reasonable. He realizes with a chill that the phrases "for the good of the realm" and "just this once" now live comfortably in his own head. Without planning to, he begins keeping tallies of symbol frequencies across dozens of intercepted letters. He discovers that even the smartest cipher cannot hide how often certain sounds must appear in any human language. He calls it convenient counting, never guessing that future scholars will quietly build a science on the same idea. His hands shake now, so the council sends a young man named Matthias with steady fingers and hungry eyes. Matthias learns the patterns frighteningly fast, filling in pieces of keys the master has not even spoken aloud. Watching him, the cryptographer understands that the secrets he guards no longer require him, only the book and a pair of fresh hands. One sleepless night, he writes a letter to no one, in a private cipher made of every alphabet and trick he knows. Line by line, he records what he has never told a priest: the weight of changing a word and watching a man die for it. Instead of locking it away, he hides it in a bundle of boring records, trusting chance to preserve the only honest thing he has ever written. Rudolph will die, the court will thin, and later centuries will crack these ciphers in bright lecture halls and quiet archives. They will reconstruct tables he drew in candle smoke and congratulate themselves on solving the Emperor's codes. However, they will never know the sound of his breath when the ink finally gave up its secret, and that, in the end, is the only part of the cipher that stays unbroken. They promised immortality. They promised to turn lead into pure gold. But behind the magic, there was only madness. Behind the science, there was only death. This is the true story of the alchemist. Not the one from fairy tales, but the one written in blood. You are coughing up blood again, just a speck, bright red against the dirty linen. It's the fumes. They taste sweet today, like almond and rot. Outside your frozen window, the bells of Prague are tolling midnight, but you cannot sleep. You haven't slept in 3 days. The fire in the Athenor, your furnace, must not die. If the fire dies, the work fails, and if the work fails, the emperor takes your head. Rudolph II gives you lodging here, in the Golden Lane. It sounds rich, doesn't it? Golden Lane. In reality, it's a row of tiny, freezing hovels built into the castle wall, a cage for his pet magicians. He demands the Philosopher's Stone by the winter solstice, that is, tomorrow. You look at the mixture in the flask, it's supposed to be gold. Right now, it looks like gray sludge. You are an imposter, or maybe you are a genius who is just one ingredient away from godhood. The line between the two is as thin as the glass holding your life's work. To the peasant, this is magic. To you, it is cooking with poisons. The great work, the magnum opus, has 4 stages. You've memorized them better than your own children's names. First, nigredo, the blackening. You take the raw matter, lead, antimony, maybe dirt from a graveyard, and you burn it until it rots. Putrefaction is essential. The matter must die to be reborn. The smell in your lab is a mix of sulfur, which smells like hell itself, and charcoal. Your neighbors cross themselves when they walk past your door. They think you are summoning demons. You are just trying to separate the soul of the metal from its body. Then comes the dangerous friend, mercury, quicksilver. It is the only metal that mimics life. It runs, it dances, it eats gold. You use it to dissolve the impurities. But mercury demands a price. They call it the hatter's shake. The mercury vapor settles in your brain. First, your gums bleed, then your teeth loosen, then the tremors start. Look at your hands. You can barely hold the stirring rod. You are 30 years old, but your body is 60. You traded your youth for a recipe that might be a lie. Next is albedo, the whitening. You wash the black rot with acids, vitriol, and aqua regia. Royal water. It's the only acid strong enough to dissolve gold. One splash on your skin and it eats to the bone in seconds. You don't wear gloves. You need to feel the heat of the reaction. But chemistry is the easy part. The real danger is the other men in the lane. Edward Kelly, the Englishman down the street, claims he speaks to angels. He has the emperor's ear. He told the court that you are stealing his supplies. You write your notes in ciphers. You write backwards. You use symbols that only you understand. Green lion for acid. Red dragon for the stone. Paranoia is your bedfellow. If you succeed, they will kill you to keep the secret. If you fail, they will kill you for wasting the emperor's gold. There is no retirement plan for an alchemist. The emperor is coming at dawn. You don't have the stone, so you have to cheat. You are not the first. You prepare your special stirring rod, the one made of iron, but hollowed out and filled with real gold dust, then plugged with wax. When you stir the boiling lead, the wax melts, the gold falls in. Transmutation. It's a cheap parlor trick for a king who owns half of Europe. If he catches you, the punishment is ironic. They call it the gilded gallows. They dress you in a garment covered in gold tinsel and hang you from a scaffold covered in gold leaf. You die sparkling, a joke for the crowds. The thought makes your mercury-poisoned stomach turn. You retch into a bucket. It's mostly bile. Dawn, the final stage. Rubedo, the reddening. The fire is roaring now. You haven't blinked in an hour. You throw the red lion, your projection powder, into the crucible. The mixture must turn a deep blood-red crimson. That is the sign of the stone. It's turning red. Your heart hammers against your ribs like a trapped bird. Is it the trick, or did you actually do it? For a second, the fumes make you believe. You see the face of God in the smoke. You are immortal. You are rich. You are broken. The crucible cracks, a hairline fracture. The sound is like a gunshot in the silent lab. The liquid, your life, your gold, your freedom, hisses and spills into the ashes of the fire. It turns back into gray, useless sludge. The Red King is dead. The guards are at the door. You can hear the heavy boots on the cobblestones. You won't open it. You drink the rest of the hemlock on your shelf. But listen to me, your failure was not total. In your madness, you didn't find gold, but you found other things. Hennig Brand found phosphorus, light from urine. Butker found porcelain, white gold. You didn't find magic. You found chemistry. You were the martyr that science needed to be born.